Hello, good morning and welcome to our class. I'm teacher Boniface. Yesterday I took you through English. Let us review some of the things that we talked about yesterday in English for grade 6, 7 and 8. You remember there were some things that we need to clarify that I mentioned yesterday. For instance, adjective tall is a size, is for size, is a size adjective, not shape adjective. But for those who bothered to continue listening to our lesson, following our lessons, our lesson must have noticed that I clarified it later. It is always good not to look for mistakes, but to check what is happening, pick the positive and leave the negative to be corrected later. So for those who bothered to continue the lesson, you must have noticed that I corrected it later. Man is to error. There was also the other point of adjective wooden. There was a time because of the nature of the videos that I'm taking, the learning that I'm doing, the teaching that I'm doing, I mentioned that wooden is origin, but it is not adjective of origin, it is adjective of material, just like metallic and plastic. Wooden is there. For origin, we are supposed to remain with African, Swahili, like when you say Swahili dishes, American, like that. Today, I'm going to take you through a very different thing. It is appearing in our books, the stories that we read. The stories that we read, sometimes they appear under reading, sometimes they appear under listening and speaking, subsequent listening and speaking, subsequent reading. But in all the cases, you are required to identify some things. These stories, they are called oral narratives. They are called oral narratives. Most of them are the traditional ones. Long time ago, we used to be told stories about grandfathers and mothers. I don't know nowadays. The modern world is changing very fast, but we are having those stories recorded. What are their functions? What are the core functions of those oral narratives? I would like us to start from there. What are the core functions of those oral narratives? 1, write, entertain. Write, entertain. 2, educate. 3, warn. 4, caution. 5, advice. 6, teach. Somebody may be asking about these oral narratives that teacher is telling us. Let me take you through 6 types of oral narratives. You may have seen in your assessment, sometimes you get a story, but you don't closely check the type of story. That is where I want to drive you to. And for information, these stories are both found in grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. So you don't have to say it is for grade 8 or 7 or 6 only. No. I'm going to take you through 6 characteristics of oral narratives. 6 of them. The first one is legends. These legends are based on community heroes. We have these heroes are those people who exhibit superhuman powers or superhuman abilities. They are true in nature, these legends. They are legendary. The legendary often sacrifice themselves for the community, and they have a moral lesson. Then we have myths. The second one is myths. Myths are sacred. They tell about the origin of a community. They always reference to a superhuman being. They are based on the history of a community. We have dilemma stories, dilemma narratives. Dilemma narratives, they present the protagonist with a difficult situation where he is supposed to make a choice. None of the choices is easy to make. Always ends with a question. The protagonist often regrets the choice made. They have a moral lesson. Ideological narratives, they are also referred to as explanatory narratives, or those narratives that answer the question why. So they are also called why narratives. They explain the origin of natural phenomenon. They explain why things are the way they are. They deal with the question why, and also they heavily rely on the cultural background of the community. They have a moral lesson as well. And the fifth one is trickster narratives. The trickster narratives are they involve trickery or cunning characters. Trickery or cunning characters. They involve small versus big animals. They test brain versus brown. Brown as in BRAWN, a full brown. They are small animals. The small animals always trick the big animals, and they have a moral lesson. And the sixth oral narrative characteristic of oral narrative, the sixth one is monster narrative. Sometimes they are also called ogre narratives. You may have come across questions or stories that are involving monsters in your books or in your assessment. The monster narratives involve creatures from human imagination and fantasy. The creatures have the ability to turn themselves into human forms. Creatures always take advantage of the vulnerable and the weak in the society. Monsters are always pursued by heroes, and they teach a moral lesson. Why have I come up with this write-up? I've come up with this data because I have noticed that most of us teachers, we only teach the content on oral narrative when we arrive at it in the units in our textbooks, course books. But it is good to have a record of what you are teaching, and if you go through all the contents from unit 1 to the last unit, you find that almost all these narratives are tackled. So it is good to have them in a write-up somewhere, so that you offer your learners. In that case, I have a collection of a reference book, collection of oral narratives, a book that you can ask your parent to organize so that you get one. You can procure one. This one, you see it. It is called Principles of Oral Narratives, Principles of Oral Literature and Poetry. It has revision questions. It has short notes, summary. It has like the ones that I've just taught you, and they are all taken from the course books that we have just we have in school, like this one. So these are the notes. Just to get organized your parent to get you one through the link, through our YouTube link. We can link up and organize how you get it. Still on these oral narratives, I would like to leave you with one question. Actually, yeah, two questions. I have two questions. One, I'm going to test you on a story that you are going to Google and answer the questions on your own. then post them in our YouTube channel. Go and Google this question. Question 1: why the chameleon changes color? Why the chameleon changes color? If you had this book near you, the question, the stories are still there, but I know they are online. Why the chameleon changes color? Once you read it, answer the following questions. These are the questions that you find in your assessment. That's why I'm saying that in our assessments we come across these questions. What type of oral narrative is this? What type of oral narrative is this? After reading it, that is the question. Second question: briefly explain the character of the chameleon. Briefly explain the character of the chameleon. Third question: with illustration, identify 3 lessons that can be learned from this narrative. The fourth question: from your oral literature fieldwork, give names of 3 animal characters you have come across and mention the main character trait of each animal. Questions 5: why do you think animals in oral narratives are given human characteristics? Instead of giving you a second question, let me just give you an assignment without questions. Continue checking from the internet these other stories. They also fall under the story that I've just told you to read, and then read and answer there any questions that are related to the questions that I've asked you. Why the dog is the friend of man? Another story. How the tortoise took the bee's drums. Another question. How the dog became a domestic animal. Another question. How the Luo divided. That said and done, I believe I've given you enough work for our English session today. Do it. Respond on our wall, on our YouTube channel. Yesterday I found some responses from some of the people. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Keep up. One Mercy, somebody Mercy. But there was also Alex responding very well, and several others. I cannot upload all of you. Thank you so much. Continue journeying with us. We cannot afford to remain idle during this time. Keep safe. Do not cross stormy waters. Avoid raging rivers. Say hi to your parents. Thank you so much.